Let's go for a walk. My next guest is Larry Gennari. Larry is the co-founder of Gennari-Aronson, a law establishment in the Boston area that works with entrepreneurs and private and public companies across all kinds of industries. Larry has been named a New England super lawyer for mergers and acquisitions every year since the publication was created. He has over 2 decades of experience in corporate and transactional law and began his career at Ropes & Gray. And prior to establishing Gennari-Aronson, he was a partner at Choate Hall Stewart in Boston. Outside of law, Larry dedicates much of his time to academia, helping other entrepreneurs and his local community. In our conversation, we talk about how AI will impact law, Larry's personal journey in law, high-stakes decision-making, project entrepreneur, failure, success, and legacy. Without further ado, let's go for a walk with Larry Gennari. Larry, who did you get into law for?
Who did I get into law for? Boy, you're starting right with the tough questions, Ryan. I think I got into law because it was really about trying to find a way to help people be successful. Could have done that a lot of different ways. And I hope many of us try to do that as kind of your North Star. But that's kind of why. Really wanted to help people solve problems.
And have you done so?
I like to think so. I've been doing this for a few decades now. Most of the clients that I help are entrepreneurs, even if they're at big companies. They think differently. They want things to happen. They want to make change. They want to make money. That's okay too. But you can do both at the same time. And that's especially true today than it was even a few decades ago when I started.
And then more specifically, how did you get into corporate and transactional law?
By accident. I started as an undergraduate with a degree in accounting. Decided probably my junior year that really wasn't getting me that excited, but I really liked communications, writing, history, sociology, how people think, how they interact, how they work. And those things sent me to law school. And I learned in law school that you do think about things a different way, learn about things a different way, and it's a framework for problem solving.
And what was the first case you ever worked on?
Oh my goodness. Well, I worked at a big law firm. I started my career at a very, very big law firm. And you rotated. So I worked on bankruptcy cases, helping people sell surplus office furniture. I helped personal injury lawyers and commercial litigation lawyers sort out facts, do discovery. So I think the first memorable matter I worked on actually wasn't at a big law firm. It was once I left the big law firm and was able to work doing mergers and acquisitions and a public offering for a multi-unit retail company. And I had a ball doing that, just figuring out how business works, how people scale a business, and how they interact with the people who are going to help them do it. The managers, the employees, that kind of thing. Sort of like what you're doing now. You end up where you end up, usually not through a straight line.
Absolutely. And then what's the hardest case you've ever worked on?
I think the hardest and most challenging matters as a corporate lawyer is when you are helping people move on, either by selling it or doing an acquisition, and especially family-owned businesses, because those kind of businesses, although successful, when you think about it, start to talk to the people involved, they're pretty fraught with personal issues. Anyone who has siblings will understand this. And those relationships tend to thread their way through any kind of business relationship. So I think every matter where you're trying to help somebody move on to a new situation is hard and challenging in its own way.
And then have you been a part of any legal decisions that have been impactful in society and had societal implications?
I would say not in terms of case precedents that you could cite or see, but I like to think that the work that I have done has helped people move on to new situations, has helped people become successful as entrepreneurs. So I can't say that in the traditional way that I've been part of any groundbreaking constitutional law, but I like to think that consequences of if I have any legacy, it's built through many, many different points, interactions, transactions, and moments.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I'd frame it.
And then how will AI impact law in the way it's practiced?
I think it'll augment, not replace law. It will replace some of the repetitive, frankly, less interesting aspects of law and discovery. But I think there'll be no substitute for judgment, strategy in my areas of the law, which span from entrepreneurial ventures to mergers and acquisitions, significant relationships, joint ventures. I do think for things like patents and IP, it's going to change the world, because now you will be able to, I don't think we're too many years out, where you will be able to assess what the quote prior art is pretty fast. You'd think once they get these libraries built out, with a push of a button.
Mm-hmm. And then what are the biggest challenges you kind of foresee for the legal system in the face of rapid technological advancement?
I would think, Ryan, the way I envision this, it's really what is it that connects people to the kind of things that they're doing. So I think AI is just going to accelerate in some ways the way that people think about how their great joy meets the world's great need. And so I think the great challenge for young lawyers is the same challenge that faces so many entrepreneurs. It's a search for meaning. It's a search for impact. It's a search for an understanding of how I matter in the world. What is it? Who cares about what I'm doing? And the answer might be nobody yet, or nobody until you're finished, or maybe the reason that you're reaching that answer is it's not the spot for you. You and I talked at our recent Authors and Innovators event with some authors who have addressed this. We talked in our first sessions about helping young people find their ikigai. And so the nonprofit that I work with on the board, American Student Assistance, ASA, is creating digital experiences for middle school kids so they can start to suss out what interests them broadly, instead of asking a question, what do I want to be when I grow up? Or shifting the question, I hope, to what are the things that excite you? Why are you here? What are the things that you can do to make the world a little bit of a better place? Where does your great joy meet the world's great need? And can you get paid for it? So those are big existential questions that I think we've got, especially now because of technology.
Can you walk me through your process for making tough decisions, particularly in high-stakes legal scenarios?
I think that the process starts with listening and active listening. And instead of just writing things down or waiting for your turn when someone takes a breath or takes a sip of water to say something, to try to either play it back or to really try to frame it in a way that gets people to a point where you can make a decision. I think the hardest decisions take the longest because you're sorting out and trying to suss out exactly what the core of the issue is. So I think it starts with listening. And I think part of that, the older I get, the more I've come to know, it also, decisions can be enhanced when instead of making statements, you're asking questions. What would it look like if it were this? Or how can I do that you want me to and still achieve what I'm trying to do? So I think empathy, active listening, and questions are a good way to sort out a difficult question.
What was the hardest decision you've ever had to make?
I think among them was trying to decide whether I could still do what I wanted to at a large firm and leave the comfort and collegiality of a big firm and do what I've been advising entrepreneurs to do for a long time. Just get out and start your own. That's easy, right? And so when you come down to it, that ends up being among the hardest decisions because you got to live with it every day. And that's everything from finding space to figuring out who does come and fix the copiers when they're not working. But I've loved it. It's been a dozen years or so since I did it. And now I look back and my answer to the question of, why did you do it then? I guess my answer is now, why didn't I do it sooner? Because it would have changed the way that I practiced and the way I approached things. And I could have impacted even more companies if I'd done it sooner. But I'm happy I'm doing it now and still having fun.
And do you have work-life balance? And is it possible to have work-life balance with such a demanding career?
I think that people ought to be thinking about work-life integration. And I think that's going to be far more interesting in the future going forward. Your generation's going to be thinking about not just work-life balance, but work-life integration. Actually go the other way, which is if you really love what you're doing and you can find something that allows you to integrate everything you're doing with your greatest values, you'll find it. I also think that there are times when you can take a deep breath and step back. One of the books we had for Authors Innovators, Nea Sangwan, who wrote Powered by Me, which is a book I'd recommend. She was an engineer, emergency physician, and decided, she describes it in the book, how she got to a point where she said, I have lost balance because I've lost myself. And so to be able to have that kind of self-assessment, self-awareness is pretty powerful. Not everybody gets there. So I think the challenge of balance is individual. I think it changes with age. I think it changes with other people in your life. So it's a constant challenge. I can't say that I've completely solved it or ever will, but that's the way I think about work-life balance.
And then let's shift gears a little bit. Can you tell me about Project Entrepreneur?
Oh, yeah. So Project Entrepreneur is a class I developed at Boston College Law School. So my law students and I put on a 10-week business boot camp for entrepreneurs who've previously been incarcerated. So we help them through a 10-week program sort out the basics of starting a business. Choice of entity, branding, IP, employment. And we do that not only through providing the content, but by bringing in outside mentors on a Monday night who can also help them sort out from a business standpoint, not just a purely legal one, what it is they need to create their business. So Project Entrepreneur not only helps them get the content, but if we've done it right, the contacts that entrepreneurs need to build and grow their businesses. So it's in its seventh session. And I hope before this runs, we can plug our pitch session is November 29th. And if anybody is interested, they can send you a note or me a note on LinkedIn and learn more about it. Come and hear the pitches. And the class culminates in this session. We call it a pitch session. It is decidedly not Shark Tank. It's Dolphin Tank, because everyone is there to help. And the last slide of every pitch is, here's what I need help with. And those requests range widely from, I just want to learn more about how to do this kind of business, a food truck or a nonprofit, to I need something. We had one entrepreneur who wanted to create a transitional home for women like her coming out of prison. And her ask on pitch night was a building. And she just happened to pitch it the right way. It fell on the right ears. And one of the entrepreneurs in the audience bought her a building. So it's a great way to connect the entrepreneurial community with people who are thinking about self-employment and thinking about defining themselves in a different way. So that's the best part of Project Entrepreneur. And I love doing it. I mentioned American Student Assistance. I like to think that I'm working on the same challenge from two different angles. If we can get kids in middle school to figure out what their ikigai is, what gets them excited, maybe we can put Project Entrepreneur out of business. Because the one thing that I've learned over 7+ years, having interviewed more than 150 people who've been incarcerated, is that there's a pattern. And the pattern is that most kids who end up there go off the rails at age 10, 11, 12. So if you can get to them early, that's kind of cool. And if you do it right and get them excited, whether it's through entrepreneurship or apprenticeship or anything, that's transformative. So I love that. And of course, Project Entrepreneur is about teaching entrepreneurship, which has been one of my passions. So it's really fun. And I'm hoping you'll come. And I hope everybody listening to this will come, because I think just from going to it, hearing the pitches and hearing the stories is really powerful and inspiring. So I'm hoping people will come.
And then kind of going along with that, can you tell me about Authors and Innovators?
Yeah. So Authors and Innovators, also now in its 7th year. Let me go this way if that's easy.
Yeah, let's do it.
Authors and Innovators is a free community event about business ideas and innovators that I created about now 7 years ago. So we've done a bunch of sessions of that. And each year we try to identify the newest, most interesting business books and showcase them together with innovators in one place for 1 day or 2 days. And so we've had great luminaries from Guy Raz, who we interviewed to talk about his book, How I Built This, Stacey Vanek Smith from Planet Money. We've had Julia Boorstin from CNBC. Most recently, we had Ron Shaikh, former CEO of Panera, now chair of the board of Kava, come and talk about his new book. And great things happen when you ask smart people to talk about themselves and their experiences, usually through a book. And then the other piece of it, the innovators, is also fun. So I get to showcase people with cool, interesting ideas who will be the topics of future books. So I have fun doing that. I complement it by writing a business book column for the BBJ that I hope people find some use in. It's only 750 words, roughly about every month. I've been doing it for about 5 years now. And it is along the same lines of Project Entrepreneurs, Project Entrepreneur and ASA, sharing ideas, trying to connect people to things that maybe they didn't think about, but having somebody talk about, they can get excited about, connected to, and maybe that leads to their ikigai. Again, all under the umbrella, I just try to help people be successful, become their best selves. Because if we can do that, as much as when we watch the news, we scratch our heads and say, is this ever going to get better? And the answer is, yeah, absolutely. We just need to, each of us, find our way and leave the place a little bit better than we found it. And the way to do that is to think, to read, to be challenged. And so Authors and Innovators fits that too. I think it's absolutely integral to being a trusted advisor and a lawyer. It's totally connected.
Where did the idea originally come from for starting Authors and Innovators?
I'm a reader, and I was constantly bringing business books to students, to board meetings, or sending them out. Hey, I just read this great book, and I put a note and drop it in the mail to a CEO or a contact. And so I thought, what if I just did this? Would people actually come? So the first year we did it, 100 people came. We said, wow, this is kind of interesting. My marketing officer, Leah Russell, who's been just a great thought partner in all of this, we were scratching our heads together and saying, let's try this again. So the second year we did it, we had double that number. And the years before COVID, we ran out of parking spaces and had to move the venue because we had some 400 plus people. This year we had roughly 300 people sign up. Probably a third of them watched it online. And the 2/3 either came to an event or came as part of the Thursday night event where we had a lot of people involved. So it's a lot of fun. Can't wait to do it again.
And then having had, probably turn around. Having had, from an outside perspective, a very successful career and a very fulfilling career, was there a pivotal moment that you can remember that was crucial for you to getting to where you are today?
I think starting my own thing with a good friend and other friends, starting something, deciding in the middle of 2008 to shake things up and do something different. I think there's a pattern of life when people hit 30, 35. Any birthday with a 5 or 0 tends to have people thinking, regardless of where it starts. And so for me, I would say the pivotal decisions are around those birthdays. And I would say starting my own firm, which gave me the freedom and geographically the mobility and the freedom to do it sort of out here on 128. One, a lot of the clients were up and down 128, but two, where you are is your headspace. And so I'm a huge fan of in-person learning, in-person work. It might not be all 5 days, but I think particularly for young people starting today, you need mentors. You should surround yourself with people and have some of that culture, the good, the bad. But I think being in an in-person environment and being in a place that either might be a pain to get to or just might be something you have to get up for is really, really important and pivotal to creating the foundation for making pivotal decisions. Because if you don't know what you don't like, it's hard to feel like you should disrupt your life. And so the more you experience the good, the bad, uncomfortable, I think the foundation is better laid because you have something to reject, something to disrupt, something to build on. I think that's true of entrepreneurial matters. And I think that's true as part of the human condition.
How do you define success?
I think you define success as feeling at your core that what you're doing meets your ikigai, that your great joy is meeting some great need. And it doesn't have to be that you're saving the world through your job. It could be that you are supporting people. You're part of a family, part of a system. part of a generation that in your corner, you're making it brighter. So I think I would define success as loving and being loved, and really making that difference. The only difference, it doesn't have to be achievements or things that you'd otherwise write about. I think it has to be, did you meet your ikigai? Did your great joy meet the world's great need? And you can spend a lifetime chasing it. I know I have.
Are you successful?
Depends on what day you ask me. I like to think most days, but I'm still working on it. And I think I will be until my last breath.
And what legacy do you hope to leave behind?
I don't think about that much. I think about trying every day to do something that's productive, thoughtful, useful, that even people hearing these words might find some value or say, yeah, I'm kind of experiencing that too. That's the kind of legacy that we can, that I think people can aspire to. None of us are getting out of this alive. So if you can try to find a way to improve it while you're here, that's a good thing.
All right. I think that's it. As we're reaching the end here.
Terrific. Ryan, thank you. This was really fun.
Yeah.
And